Oh, they tried. They tried so hard. I have got to give credit where credit is due. When you typically think of an SJW, you think of someone sitting on their couch in a dark basement, playing World of Warcraft on their computer while listening to Professor Jamel Hill. Students at Woke U, they really do. They take their education seriously. Jamel Hill is a notoriously tough grader. She's a tough teacher. So her students, they will listen to her lectures repeatedly throughout the week to make sure they are prepared for her exam. Her exams? They're pretty tough. I received a copy of one of her recent tests. It featured questions like, when attending an Antifa riot, which is the most effective tool for destruction? A Molotov cocktail, matches and gasoline, or stealing soap that you will never use from Walgreens? When I think of the average social justice warrior, the first word that comes to my mind? Lazy. These people want something for nothing. The only time an SJW gets off the couch is when there's an organized riot or when they are passionate about a particular cause. When they find a group of people they can victimize and use them to further their agenda. Each month of the year, the woke media, they select new victims. The month of March, it's dedicated to women. Women like Leah Thomas, our courageous hero, or the young women participating in what the media is now calling March Madness. Us normal people, we consider March Madness the men's tournament. The small percentage of the population that make up the woke media or identify as a social justice warrior, they consider the women's tournament to be the real March Madness. When the only madness in the women's tournament is the commentary, the relentless promotion of woke political causes by ESPN. Much like the WNBA, the only time women's college basketball makes headlines is when ESPN turns their game into a woke infomercial. Let us oppose this bill in Florida. It will get us tons of likes from men on Twitter who spend their time dressing up like Darth Vader and aren't allowed within 50 miles of a playground. Going into the tournament this year, the focus of the woke media was on equity. The NCAA, in their infinite ignorance, instead of ignoring these dregs of society, the NCAA, they actually listen to these dumbasses who have never created or effectively ran an actual business. We are investing the same amount of money into the women as we do the men. We will make sure the women have the same amount of grapes as the men do. We will also be providing jock straps to the women who identify as male. The NCAA, ESPN, they have spent a shitload of money promoting the women's tournament. They have bent over backwards, ensuring that everything is equitable. I think I told you guys several weeks ago that this would fail, and thus far, like Bomani Jones, it's been a huge embarrassing failure. I'm not special. I'm not Miss Cleo. I don't have a crystal ball that I read that tells me what's going to happen in the future. I just have my finger on the pulse of the sports world. I know what men like to watch. And I'm talking about real men here, not the beta males and feminine bitch boys on woke Twitter. They could spend $1 billion promoting women's basketball. People still are not going to watch, and I have the proof right here. Even though the NCAA and ESPN, along with the rest of the media for that matter, people like Nancy Armour at USA Today, they have tried to convince you that women's basketball is exciting, it's electric. These girls are making history. Did you see that girl with the mustache make that spectacular dunk? I'm about to share with you the ratings of both the men's and the women's tournament. These ratings are courtesy of Sports Media Watch and Showbuzz Daily. I had to dig, and I mean really dig, to find the ratings for the women. If I didn't know where to look or what I was looking for, I would have never found it. When you finish watching this video, Google March Madness TV Ratings 2022. You will find a shitload of articles talking about the men's ratings. Then Google NCAA Women's Tournament TV Ratings 2022. See what you find. Probably nothing. I found nothing when I Googled it. Why do you think that is? Even Sports Media Watch, a site dedicated to television ratings and sports, even they're not talking about the women's ratings. Why? Why? I thought women's basketball was soaring in popularity. If it's so popular, how come the media is not talking about it? Because for the most part, the ratings are complete dog shit. I'm going to give you the ratings for the men first, then we'll get into the women. First weekend of the tournament, the men averaged over 9 million viewers per game. It's their best start since 2017. And when these ratings were released, it immediately sent the woke media and the NBA into a panic. That number damn near eclipsed ratings for the NBA Finals, and it's only the first and second round of the tournament. For years, the media has blamed cord cutters, streaming services, famine in Ethiopia as the reason NBA ratings are in the pooper. The NFL disproves this notion, of course, and now college basketball disproves it. Like I've said before, if you give people a reason to watch television, they will watch television. The past 2 or 3 years, the NBA has spent millions of dollars convincing people not to watch them, so we don't. The most watched game of the tournament so far, Michigan State Duke, over 11 million. The overall audience in that time slot, and what I mean by that, the audience size combined for all 3 games that were airing against each other at the same time, over 17 million people. You could combine nationally televised NBA games for the entire week. They wouldn't come close to reaching 17 million people. The NCAA reached that number in the span of 3 hours. Michigan, Tennessee, nearly 10 million. Creighton, Kansas, almost 9 million. Ohio State, Villanova, 8.5 million. The overall audience in this time slot, over 13 million. Even St. Peter's and Murray State, 2 mid-major, small programs, no national profile. 2 mid-majors drew nearly 7 million people on CBS Saturday night, when the stars in the NBA averaged less than 3 million people this year Saturday night in prime time on ABC. Let's go ahead and get to the women, the beacons of equity, the tournament ESPN is using to educate you on teaching your 5-year-old that it's okay to identify as a lamppost. Like I said, I had to really dig to find these ratings. Where is Nancy Armour? Where is USA Today? Earlier this week, you were telling me how popular women's basketball has become. Toxic men, they can't handle this surge in popularity. Nancy Armour, how come you haven't penned an article bragging about these surging ratings? Before we get into these ratings, let me get one thing out of the way. Showbuzz Daily, they don't always notate which teams are tied to these ratings when it comes to the women. In some cases they do, others they don't. I went and found the daily schedule on ESPN, but it doesn't list the start times for these games. So some cases I will list you the teams, others I'm not, because I just can't verify it, and I didn't spend the extra time to verify it because it really doesn't matter. All right, let's get started. And I'm going to start by giving the women some credit here in the name of equity. ESPN, the NCAA, they chose to air the bulk of the women's tournament on the same days and at the same time as the men, which is absolutely fucking stupid. When they aired unopposed on Monday night with only fake wrestling as their competition, the women actually pumped a decent number. A decent number for them. 9 p.m. time slot on ESPN Monday night, 1.1 million. Honestly, that's pretty good. The 7 p.m. time slot Monday night, Belmont, Tennessee, over 800,000. Now, unfortunately, that's where the good news ends. Let's go all the way back to Saturday. Longwood, NC State, 326,000. Princeton, Kentucky, 317,000. The other 6 games that day, several barely broke 100,000 viewers. A couple barely broke 200,000. Let's move to Sunday. Gonzaga, Louisville, 332,000. South Dakota, Baylor, 246,000. The other 4 games Sunday were in that same range. Like I said, when the women ran opposed on Monday, the ratings were much better. But besides those first 2 games that I just gave you, they still weren't great. Between 300,000 and 500,000 viewers, or a million viewers less than what the NBA averages on ESPN. Now, what does this tell you? What does it tell you? Equity isn't real. No matter how much the media promotes it, no matter how bad ESPN wants you to believe women are the same as men, they're just not. It is not the same product. And it's not just toxic men who feel this way. Apparently, women feel this way too. If they didn't, more women would be supporting women's basketball. I thought something else was interesting about all this too. I've mentioned this before when comparing NBA ratings to college basketball. Women's college basketball is far more popular than the WNBA. I mean, way more popular. And this should never be the case. Amateur athletes should never draw a larger audience than professionals. Basketball is the only sport where this happens. Why? Because both the NBA and the WNBA have dedicated themselves to the woke agenda. My question is, what is the media excuse going to be now? They cannot blame lack of investment. The figures haven't been released just yet, but supposedly the NCAA has invested the same amount of money in the women's tournament as they did the men. It can't be lack of promotion. ESPN has relentlessly promoted the women's tournament. What will be the excuse for the women drawing, in some cases, over 90% less than the men? What will be the excuse? If I had to guess, the media is going to blame toxic masculinity. Hell, Nancy Armour and USA Today, they have already pushed that excuse into the mainstream. Now, of course, it's pure bullshit. The reason the women don't draw an audience, it's fucking boring. Okay, give me your thoughts. Men's college basketball absolutely crushing the NBA and the women's tournament in the ratings. Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys later.